guy wrote an article this week, and I wanted to cover it, and that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to have him here. And he talked about Trump, and I love the fact that he's got a fresh set of eyes coming at this, not being involved in the soup that we're involved in every day, in watching the day-to-day shit. So I don't know if you wanted to read this or just comment on it. I figured I would kind of. I want people to read it and understand kind of what you're saying here.
Right.
You know, so right. I don't know if it feels weird for you to have me read that. I know I usually read the articles on my show. So
you can pin him, by the way. Make it big so you can see stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing, though. The great thing about being unplugged is that you don't have people constantly attacking you and trying to, ruin you so that's a good part. Staying low key, but if you want to read it out, I'll comment on it, or if you want me to read it, that's fine. Whichever way you like.
How about it? Yeah, I'll read it because just as I interpret. Yeah. Oh, let's let Reef read it. Yeah, because he hasn't really seen it.
Yeah, I don't do these often.
Yeah.
So,
go for it.
As you know, ex-Republican President Donald J. Trump has now been indicted on the count of conspiracy and one count of obstruction due to the January 6th insurrection, as labeled by the corporate state-cabled media. The exact counts were conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction and attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights and throwing ketchup at a wall. To date, as of August 2023, Trump faces 34 felony counts in New York in connection with... Why can't I see that word?
Hush. It's cut off. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, it's off the phone.
I don't either. So money payments to ex-porn star Stormy Daniels. He also faces 40 felony counts in Florida for allegedly hiding classified documents and impeding efforts to retrieve them. Over in Florida, he faces 4 felony counts in trying to overturn the 2020 election. And finally in Georgia, scroll back a little bit, Indy. Just hit control and scroll back on that. There you go. That's perfect. Altogether, nice. Trump may face over 100 years in prison if convicted on most counts.
Right. Okay. So that in Georgia, prosecutors were trying to find a way to charge him with election interference. You skipped that, but
right.
But so
although many of us have laughed at the idea that liberals in the Democratic Party would ever think they could get Trump on a crime or let alone convict him, it was a startling wake-up call when the intelligence community and the DNC colluded together to come through on their promise on making Trump pay for his part in the January 6th so-called insurrection. While Trump and his MAGA cult thought that somehow Republicans in the highest levels of government and its oligarch owners would protect him, it seems that many diehard Trump allies have left him to the wrath of his enemies in Washington and elsewhere. Those of us on the outside of electoral politics knew that most Republicans became diehard Trump supporters simply because they did not want to suffer the same fate many of his political opponents did when they challenged him for office in the 2016 Republican primaries.
Right.
Now that the threat to their political careers and ambitions have no threat of being taken away via Trump's devoted base, Republicans like Chris Christie, John Bolton, Pence, and even Secretary of State Mike Pompeo have now denounced the ex-president and have aligned with the corporate intelligence community and its state-controlled cable news media.
Wow.
So,
yep.
It's they don't care.
Yeah.
They only pretend to care.
Listen, I mean, I'm not Trump. I'm not a Trump supporter, and I'm not a MAGA supporter. But I look at it as basically, it's obvious. Like we can see exactly that the hate is so overwhelming for him that they're willing to basically circumvent whatever laws are left to basically twist the law into convicting him. And it's, something that, if you look, when you go down further in the article, the repercussions of that,
Well, and I think we all kind of knew that he was a vessel. He was a means to an end for a lot of these guys so that he could get Republicans in power, and they can do a lot of what they want to do. It may not be exactly what they want, but it was certainly going to be better than Joe Biden, they thought. Right. I think that they thought incorrectly, and now that they have seen Joe Biden in office, in a lot of ways, even though he's funneling money to Ukraine, it's still helping their military contractor buddies and Wall Street and the banks and everybody else. And they're like, well, maybe Joe wasn't so terrible. But
And it tells their base, like, this is what they're going to do to keep him from running. And what that does is it gets his base saying, okay, the system is done. It's not working. We have to, there's plenty of right-wing militias that are ready to go. So this might have a real serious repercussion.
Right. So
I'll be there around me.
I'll pick up. It seems that anyone who views what's happening right now with Trump's indictments who is not the average neolib and MAGA cultist can see that this is clearly a political witch hunt coordinated by the powerful elitists within the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and the true rulers who lurk in the shadows of secrecy and power. Trump was not the great savior and his followers made him out to be. He was just another powerful tyrant with only one quest: to achieve more power, which in essence is pretty much the same obsession that every single president has had ever since Kennedy presidency. So what Trump did wrong was several things, but what comes to mind in Kris's analysis here of the current dilemma was that he said the quiet parts out loud, emboldened by the fact that the extreme wealthy could do whatever they want, say whatever they want, control anyone they want. The deception of false freedom and democracy would be potentially threatened and could possibly expose the true power elite and confirm to the masses that the system was fundamentally broken and corrupted to its core, as Kris was saying before. So the illusion of freedom and the illusion of choice is a sacred cow to the true power elite, and their ability to move and hide in the shadows is the key to holding it all together. Yep.
Right. And I just want to also want to state this, is that I compare it to, like, in those vampire movies where you have like the older vampires and then the newer ones, and the newer ones are like, we should eat the humans. Like, why are we hiding? Like, let's go out and eat them. And then the older vampires are like, we got to stay secret. We got to keep low key. We can't be doing this. And I think Trump represents that. He's like saying it out loud. Listen, we're the oligarchs. We run everything. Like, why are we hiding it? Let's just say what we want. We want the oil. Let's go get it. Like, why are we hiding it? And they don't want that because they need that illusion that this is a real, that is like, it's still a democracy, and they want that illusion of democracy. So that's basically where I was coming from in that excerpt right there.
I looked at this picture at first. I realized that, like, I think it actually is supposed to say vindicated now. So, like, it was first Trump indicted, but now it's Trump vindicated, not indicated again and again. Indicted. But right. But it's like, in people's minds, all this witch hunting.
Your theory gets blown out by, like,
the fact that
the lady's shirt. Yeah. No, the lady's shirt also says that there's no V. Like,
so what's with the
like? It's one thing if the thing was folded.
All right, so
indicted, indicated,
indicated,
indicated again. I don't even know what that means, but another major reason that they decided to go full force on Trump's path to his own destruction is that when it comes to ruling over the masses, they must be approved by the proper political channels and top officials in Washington. For example, when Bloomberg took it upon himself, right, to jump into the 2020 Democratic primaries with the obvious protest from DNC officials to stop Bernie Sanders, the DCCC in his first debate ordered every Democratic debate on every candidate on the debate stage to gang up on him and destroying his chances of forever winning a seat at the table. Is that what happened, do you think, with Bloomberg?
Yeah, and Bloomberg, you could tell, obviously, he jumped in. He was a Republican. He switched parties. He jumped into the 2020 debate to stop Bernie because he was freaking out. He actually thought Bernie had a chance of winning. And they were sort of like, the way it looked to me, it was like they were like, don't come in. We got this. Don't worry about it. We're not going to let him win anyway. Don't worry. And he did not believe him. He's like, no, I'm the oligarch. I have to go in here and do this myself. I have to stop him. And I think that's what happened. And when he disobeyed them, they ganged up on the debate stage. And the first debate, you could see them. They all went at him.
Well, a lot of them did. I thought it was because they changed the Democrats actually changed the rules to let him on the stage in the first place. Like, I thought wanted him there at least for a specific purpose.
Right.
And then they let Elizabeth Warren basically destroy him and call him misogynist and ask him all kinds of questions. It didn't even take all of them. It just took one or two of them. But But that's why I just wanted to ask about that one.
Right.
But Trump did not gather the support and permission from the higher ups, and therefore the true rulers at the top swore vengeance towards him for his disobedience and belief that he could ever be one of them. And I think that was also part of it, was just he's been kind of running between the raindrops and getting away with shit his whole life, and he's going to keep doing that because now it's in their interest to allow him to continue to do that. And I laughed at this one when you talk about Michael Rappaport, right?
Uh-huh.
The current climate has been incredibly toxic and seems like it'll never let up as we drive down the abyss of systemic doom. Well, doomerism is a thing. I'm kind of there too, and I try to stay positive. I got little kids like you do, and it's like it's hard. Stay positive,
yes.
It's hard.
No, don't be like me.
It's hard, like, to be up for the kids every day. It's like, hey, they're looking forward to this. Somebody was like, when was the last time, like, we were actually looking forward to the future? Like, we were in the 80s, like, everything, like, in the 60s, the 70s, the future is going to be great. The future is going to be amazing. And now it's like, nah.
Yeah.
But unhinged liberal celebs like Michael Rappaport, staunch haters of Trump, have been ecstatic over the news of his indictments and possible convictions. The obsession's real. TDS is real, and it may be a scary moment soon after the monster they created in their heads faces his fate, and they don't have him to possibly hate and obsessively hate anymore. Well, guess what? They're going to find another one. Whether it's the Satan, right? The scary question is, which people will they target and hate next? I think they've already started to target those people, and it will be Marjorie Taylor Greene. All right. I've already seen a lot of stuff being thrown at her and working towards unseating. And that guy too. Right. But will MAGA be the next target for the new indictments? Of course, liberals wouldn't bat an eye. Hate's contagious. I think the left is also like the independent left is also potentially vulnerable. And
we're next.
Somebody was talking about how.
Yeah. I mean, they have us where I want us. I mean, we're contained. In my opinion, we're contained right now. And I mean, they don't really need to do anything. Honestly, we really don't make a dent if we really look at it. As far
we've been talking about this frequently on other shows too, about like there's even the one that they come out probably the hardest among our space has no power.
Yeah,
Jimmy Dore.
Zero power. Like the dude's got a bone disease. He's not storming the Capitol tomorrow. Like, you're gonna be okay.
Not only if you compare him to all the other large audiences, he's got a relatively small audience. I mean,
small one.
It's just funny.
Like they have every other bit of media controlled and the narrative controlled. Like, what are they worried about?
Right.
Everything.
They're really worried about people like us. People like.
We're the only.
I guess
we're the only voices of dissent.
Well, basically, what they do is their job is. They know that they can never destroy the left, right? They know they can't destroy it, but what they do is they contain it. That's what they do with terrorists. They contain terrorism. They know that they can't stop things, but they contain it. So as long as they keep the left small and in a corner where nobody can hear them, that's where they want the left. So they know they can eradicate you, but they know they can keep you contained. And that's basically what they do. So if when you try, say your channel gets traction, they keep it down. They want to cut it off before it grows, right? They don't want it to be big, and then they have to go after it. But once sometimes that people do get through, but that's when you see them collectively go after them. So,
right. Well, it's funny.
That's what I think about that.
There's this country song that's taken off in the past week. Crab and Jesse are going to talk about it tomorrow.
Has its own issues
on Politically Homeless, actually, on our Monday night show at 9 Eastern tomorrow night. So definitely check that out. That was really, it was a really interesting conversation that we've been having all day. Is this like a setup? How did it get through all the filters and go this kind of viral this quickly? My take is that right-wing media at this point has created its own ecosystem so that somebody can become this big without anybody in mainstream corporate media ever knowing anything about it or have anything to do with it. And it drives them crazy that they don't know anything about it, can't control it, and don't understand it. This guy, he's a lunatic. I didn't want to show his nonsense on the indictment, right? But So you got shit libs like that, and Deborah Messing and Alyssa Milano and all these people that are screaming about Trump. Meanwhile, the guy hasn't been president in 3 years. The whole thing is to try to stop him from running for president again because 100%. They think he's going to win. So let's get to the point of all this. He says, I can write for hours about this and about this weird civil war thing that's been drummed up by legacy media, by the order of intelligence community, and whatever Wall Street entity is profiting from all this. And going to initiate a small history lesson here. Go back to the Roman Empire when their democracy was short-lived and the Republic came under the rule of the first emperor for far much longer. Knowing that they didn't have a long lifespan as a republic, even though corruption took apart the empire either way. Right? The United States, similar to the Roman Empire, cannot avoid its inevitable future, which at this point is comparable to Rome. So what am I really saying here? Well, that everything is collapsing and everyone's basically corrupt. So time is running out with the current system of government and finance in the West, as Trump will most likely go away to jail. I think that's a shocking prediction.
Yes, that's my prediction.
I disagree. I think a lot of us would, but he says he's pretty
I would
sure.
Say,
okay, go ahead.
I would say on the least he would be under house arrest, but we'll see. Whatever keeps him away from that, from that podium debate stage.
I think they let him get away with it, because if they convict him of that crap, who else are they going to convict of stuff like that?
Oh, that would be
they have to protect themselves too.
Well, that's the purpose of the article. That's where they're setting the stage for. If that does happen, that's where it's going.
Says, but what's even more interesting, I'm pretty sure that many people in this movement who've held back their drive to commit heinous acts of terrorism will most likely decide to go into action, feeling that the fairy tale of the communist threat, quote unquote, has taken a boot kick to their constitutional republic, which is hilarious. But what's scarier is what happens after Joe Biden's presidency. And this is where I really start to align and agree with you that with Trump potentially incarcerated and a new president on the horizon, but even without a new president, even with Trump as president on the horizon, the next president, whether Republican or Democrat, will likely make plans to overthrow the government by dividing the power elite, in fact, fracturing the country even more.
As a company, yeah.
If that's we basically are the United Corporations of America. I hate to credit the douchebag that said that the first time I heard it, but he's another guy from this area that I don't want to mention. He who shall not be named.
Yes.
Don't be rude.
Yeah, the reason is to avoid his own possible prosecution by his own political opponents after his presidency. So now they're going to set up so that whatever they do, they can't be charged with something after they're gone. Trump's imprisonment will set the tone. Joe Biden may suffer the same fate if Republican judges and prosecutors decide to go after him, or most likely Hunter. And in Kris's estimation and opinion, he foresees the next president and his Justice Department taking these steps because they'll likely be Republicans. This obsession with Trump's prosecution by his enemies will most likely have these very consequences in this prediction. And that's what Kris means, is that, turn it around, because Democrats aren't going to be in power forever. And they'll use whatever you do as precedent for what they're going to do once they get back into power. So if you spend your 3-4 years prosecuting Trump, what the hell do you think they're going to spend the next 3-4 years doing?
And Democrats do what they do best. They set the pavement for Republicans, and then Republicans implement that. They set it up. They set the stage for it.
And nobody here, to be fair, we're no fans of either side. But
to be fair,
the prosecution of Trump, right, whether he's found guilty or not, will send warning signs to all future presidents that they can possibly be persecuted by their political opponents after they leave office. Not from war crimes, but by political opinion and orders by enemies who lurk in elite shadows of power. Because they've already got that dirt from before he was ever president, like they have with Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
All right? In a just world with little to no corruption, the incarceration of most Washington officials would set a better precedent. Right? But unfortunately, it would highly be unlikely for that scenario to ever occur with a current system that's corrupted from the small condo board in Florida to the highest court in the land. And we're going to talk about the highest court in the land being corrupted later tonight. All right, Clarence Thomas, holy crap. The crap that guy's been getting away with for 35 years is amazing. But the emperor is very close to his power dying in this empire, in this dying empire. The empire is very close to power in this dying empire, and he will fear his prosecution because every president so far has been a criminal, and only criminals can qualify for the position. Yeah, that's a good one.
Right.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
After this,
the issue is like the emperor hasn't ever had power here.
Let's be right. Now let's be clear. Like, but behind every dictator and emperor, there are people behind them that run stuff. That's obvious. Hitler had that. There were people behind the scenes, and he was just the one that's out front doing it. But it was more
right. I think everyone, like with we all knew Bush wasn't running things,
right?
And they made it appear as Cheney was running things, when in reality it was the entirety of the deep state and the military powers.
Right. So right, and then in case there's a coup or a rebellion, they're safe, and the person out front is the one that gets taken down.
Which is why your leaders, I'm not necessarily like focused on paying attention to, because like you get one out, they're going to replace them with another one.
Yeah.
And 3 more on top of it. So it's like you're constantly dealing with this hydra of figureheads that you don't need to.
Yeah.
You got to find the source of that, which is, you're not going to vote out the Rothschilds. Like, that's not happening.
Right.
So figure that one out.
Yeah.
Orcas seem to know what to do.
Yeah.
But Trump defied. Well, listen, in a weird way, it seems like they already did it. So what Kris is saying is that after this emperor takes power, will it all end as Rome did? With the military unaliving him and anointing their own pre-chosen ruler for us? Well, who knows? Because in a weird way, it seems like they kind of already did. Trump defied their orders in 2016.
Like they just did in Ecuador?
Oh my God. But no, Trump defied their orders in 2016. So that meaning that he won. They wanted Hillary. So he went out there and won. That was defying their orders. Then he defied their orders again by not going along with Ukraine, for example, and not, trying to ask questions and not funding things. Not a great guy, no, but didn't.
He got his mind right in the end.
Yeah, well, sort of. But for them,
well, I mean, his focus was on China. It was not on China and South America. Focus was not on Ukraine or Europe.
And on Uniting the Middle East also. It was on Uniting the Middle East, and the Abraham Accords and, China. Making deals with Saudi Arabia and opening up Dubai. Right. Hell, Dubai, they bought that Park Avenue property from the Kushners for, I think it was $900 billion, some 900 million, some stupid number. Right. It was nowhere worth near that, and it was an albatross that had been around their neck for years, and he had been trying to get rid of it, and basically they kind of threw that in as part of a big deal for the United States. Nobody ever looked into that. And again, corruption on both sides. Trump is corrupt, Biden's corrupt. And I think
you are
Ryan,
fake news.
Well, yes, but Ryan Knight may have also had a quote about that today, about how Trump and DeSantis and all the Republicans, McConnell, they're all corrupt. The GOP is corrupt. Same thing with Biden and Pelosi and the Democrats. They're all corrupt. It's a big uniparty, and we're not in it. But the prosecution of Donald Trump will possibly be the start of the end to our illusion of freedom to those who pretend it is not. That's pretty interesting, except for the shitlibs think that this is the right thing to do, and they want to see him trotted out in an orange jumpsuit and thrown in jail. They think that's the right thing to do, right?
They think that's going to be great optics for Biden. They're not even necessarily thinking about, so.
Right. But that the end result will be accepted by society that seemingly now prefers to be ruled over with enthusiastic, purposeful ignorance. And yes. Again, that's this guy sitting below us. Kris Legion wrote this. KrisLegion.substack.com. So follow him over there. That's about the only place you can these days, waking up. Right?
Yeah. I'm in there. That's where I'm at.
So you can hook him up.
Do more of that.
And he's co-publishing it to INN, which we love. I love getting the alert. Like, oh shit, Kris just wrote something else.
It's like, I throw in an article here and there,
And shout out to the crab on the on the thumbnail here that's going to go out for the clip that goes out for this segment tonight. We'll do that during the week. All right. So we got nice family in here. Everybody's here. What up? We need Crab. Yes, keep writing, Kris. Absolutely.
Thank you, man.
Crab also wants to do like a sit down. He wants to know all about what you think about RFK. He's got all kinds of questions. I see him just peppering chat. But
and then he's like, even though electoralism is bullshit,
right.
Crab says.
Yes, let's talk about electoralism.
Treat it as such. Right.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, yes, it's all waste, but you know, it's sort of like electoralism is sort of like the little stuff they'll let you do with electoral politics, but when it comes to the big situation, you know, the big issues, like the big policy issues, it's like, no. And that is don't mess with the war machine, don't touch the healthcare, don't mess with the World Bank. So those are like the three rules that you're not allowed to do. Is the three big ones you're not allowed to touch. The energy, you know, sector. When you're in politics, but if you want to like maybe build a road after a few years of fighting, you can maybe get the road built in like 25 years and things like that. But
only if that politician has to drive on it.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, pretty much.
Juan Guaido. Thanks, Max RJ. I remember Juan Guaido. Oh, that's great. Now we need, I got to disagree with you here, who's saying that we've got TDS in the other direction, that if we don't think that we would be in Ukraine at this point. I disagree, because he was actually trying to, look, he had Vindman out. They tried to bring him up on impeachment for not trying to fund Ukraine. He knew that there was something going on with Burisma and Hunter Biden. He was not for funding Ukraine. He wanted to have a better relationship with Russia and with Putin than these neocons like Jake Sullivan and Victoria Nuland that were all out of power, and they were working with West executive advisors trying to get the military technology contracts with the tech companies and embed the military with tech so that they didn't even necessarily need the power of the presidency. That's what I saw happening. And I did not necessarily see Trump's focus. Actually, he wanted to find out, hey, can you help us out? They wanted information on Hunter Biden in order to exchange for that money. They gave up the money in the end because it was Congress that appropriated.
Right. Let me call the Russians to help.
Right. This guy. And I'm not, again, we're not fans of Trump, but there were other priorities that he had, and I don't think that funding Ukraine to the tune of $150 billion was one of them, even if the military did. Getting out of Afghanistan, but maybe he would never have done Ukraine and just gone right into China and Taiwan. No, I don't want to debate anyone on this, honestly. I love you, and I appreciate you. I'm just giving you my take on it, and I appreciate that you put that into chat, and I wanted to respond to it. But
we do a little trolling. It's called we do a little trolling.
Right. Colin's saying that if anything, we would have been in Ukraine if Hillary was president. Trump delayed their plans, and that's what I see is that Ukraine was more of a democratic operation, whereas China is more of a Republican operation. Right. Or they would have invented their own, whether that is the Middle East, and tried to destabilize more of the Middle East and done more with Syria and Lebanon and Yemen. Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff. So we have another article here from
and who did that Operation Fast Track, Operation
Warp Speed?
Vaccination Warp Speed? Yeah.
Warp Speed.
That thing?
Yes.
Who did that again? Yeah, I remember.
Right. So